14 hours has passed now, and we've gone from this to this. Well, I can see that the glue is not completely set. It's obviously set enough to hold this together, but I'm definitely not going to be putting any stress on it for another few hours. I guess that in places where there was no air circulation, the glue just couldn't dry. Okay, I admit it. I was in a bit of a hurry here. Okay. This is the side that had that damaged segment on it. I think this was the side that was visible. Well, if I can't tell, I guess it's not that bad. Oh yeah, there it is. So, I guess it doesn't really matter because I'm only going to be using the very outside part of this ring. I'm at the place now where I have to make the dial board. Now I know the easiest thing to do is just take a piece of oak veneer and cut it the right size, make a hole in the middle, and you're done. But I've said I want this to be a solid oak clock. So I want to make a solid oak dial board. Now I know I risk the chance of it cracking, but I think it'll be okay. Right now I have this nut backed off about as much as I dare. I want to make sure that the threads catch. And then I have to remember there's going to be a little washer holding the dial down. Then there's going to be the thickness of the dial. Yet on the other hand, I want to have this dial board as thick as absolutely possible. Give it a little bit more strength. This piece of plywood is approximately 3/16 of an inch thick, maybe a smidgen more. So that looks like I'm going to have 1/4 of an inch to work with, and that's all. Now the last time I did this I poked myself and had to wear a band-aid for a couple of days. So let's be a little more careful this time, okay Ron? So this dial is about 9 inches. In fact, it's exactly 9 inches. And I don't have a piece of oak that's 9 inches wide. I've got this piece of 1x5 here, it's 4.5 inches. So if I double that, it's going to be just about right. So what I'm going to do is pass this through the jointer, get one side nice and flush, cut it, put them together, and it should be just about right. Now it's obviously going to be too thick. It's 3/4 of an inch thick. I only need 1/4 of an inch. But somehow, after I get this glued onto the dial board, I'm going to then thin it down to 1/4 of an inch. But I don't want to do it until I'm all through turning it on the lathe. I'm afraid that 1/4 of an inch piece could easily crack. So we'll do the trimming down later. Now that board is only 4.5 inches wide, so I don't want to be taking off any more than I absolutely have to here. Now the easiest time to pass something through a jointer is when it's long, like this. Now I know I could cut the 9 inches off and pass the 9-inch piece through, and I'd probably be okay. But it's a lot safer to pass a long piece through than a short piece. Now I know I've mentioned something like this before, but I'm going to do it again anyway. Now this small piece of scrap is going to represent a small piece that you might want to try and get this side nice and flush. So you're going along, and the blade's turning, and it catches, and let's say you accidentally let it flip up like this. It's going to instantly go the rest of the way and flip back. Now there's a chance that you could get your hand down in the blade when the piece of wood disappeared. Maybe you'll be lucky and it won't, but maybe you'll be unlucky and it will. So a long piece, there's less of a chance of that happening. Now these little safety tips that I inject into my workshop videos every once in a while, they're just my own ideas and my own findings. If your high school shop teacher has taught you anything different from what I'm saying, for goodness sakes, Do what your shop teacher said. Now another thing that I like to do, you may have noticed me do that, is that once the piece gets, at least halfway through, or maybe not even halfway through, I start putting all the pressure on this bed here. I don't put any pressure on the back bed. And the reason for that is because, let's say that these two beds are not 100% parallel, although this machine is pretty good. And you're pushing down on the back. Well, the front could conceivably flip up, but if you're always pushing down here, this is perfectly flat. So as you're going along, it's just sort of dragging the tail part of your board through, and your board is going to be planed perfectly flush, perfectly straight. In fact, I'm going to get my straight edge out just to show you. There is just no place where it's going to slip through, and this is pretty thin. Now I know that this edge feels a little smoother than the other edge, but just to play it safe, I'm going to mark it here. That way I know I put the X's together when I glue it up. I've had crazy things go wrong like this before. Now you know it's a shame that this isn't going to be seen, because once it's glued together, it's going to look like one board. Now once again, I'm doing this dry run, and that way I'll know that all my clamps and everything are going to be adjusted just right, so that once I get the glue in the joint, I don't have it setting on me and I'm looking for clamps and trying to get everything adjusted later. Now remember, the surfaces with the X's go together. I don't know why I'm telling you, I'm the one that has to remember. Well, what do you think? Look okay? I don't want to tighten this down too much right off the bat, because if I get it too tight then I can't draw these pieces together. Sort of like tightening the cylinder head on a car engine. You just do a little bit at a time. Move around. Get it just right. Okay, I think it's enough pressure, enough down pressure to hold it flat. I can see the glue oozing out there. Well, I think that's it for today. And once again, we'll see what we've got in the morning.